Damien Foster adjusted his Italian silk tie as he descended the marble steps of the Richardson Foundation. The charity gala had gone exceptionally well. Another $1 million raised for children's education. Another opportunity to expand Foster Enterprises' reputation for philanthropy. At 32, Damien had everything, a technology empire worth billions. The adoration of business magazines that called him the golden boy of Silicon Valley, and the love of Olivia Bennet, his fiancée of impeccable social standing. "Mr. Foster, your car is waiting," his assistant Thomas announced. Gesturing toward the sleek black Bentley at the curb, Damien nodded, distracted by an email on his phone. The cool November air felt refreshing after hours of champagne toasts and strategic conversations. He was halfway to his car when he noticed her, a small figure huddled against the building's ornate exterior, partially hidden in shadow. Something about her weathered face caught his attention. Damien stopped abruptly, causing Thomas to nearly collide with him. "Sir?" Thomas questioned, following his employer's gaze to the elderly woman wrapped in layers of mismatched clothing. A paper cup extended toward passersby. Damien moved closer, drawn by an inexplicable force. The woman's eyes, deep amber with flecks of gold, looked up at him, widening slightly as their gazes locked. Eleanor. The name escaped Damien's lips in a whisper. The woman's trembling hand reached toward his face but stopped short. "My boy, my Damien." Thomas stepped forward protectively. "Sir, should I call security?" But Damien was transfixed. Memories fragmented and blurry flashed through his mind. Small apartment, the scent of cinnamon, a lullaby sung in a gentle voice. "Mother." The word fell from his mouth before he could stop it. Gasps erupted from nearby gala attendees who had paused to watch the strange interaction. Smartphones appeared instantly, capturing the moment when billionaire Damien Foster knelt beside a homeless woman and called her mother. "Damien, what are you doing?" Livia's voice cut through his trance. She stood at the bottom of the stairs, her emerald gown catching the streetlights, confusion and concern etched across her beautiful face. I know her," Damien stammered, struggling to organize the fragments spinning through his mind. Eleanor's weathered hand finally made contact with his cheek. "I never thought I'd see you again," she whispered, tears streaming down her lined face. By morning, the tabloids exploded with headlines. Tech tycoon's secret shame. Foster calls beggar woman mother. Damien's phone buzzed incessantly with calls from his publicity team, board members, and concerned investors. In his penthouse overlooking the bay, Olivia paced anxiously. "Damien, please talk to me. Who is this woman?" "Your mother died when you were young. That's what you've always told me." Damien stared out the window, his reflection fragmented in the glass. "I don't know anymore. Liv. When I saw her, something connected. I was raised by my father and stepmother from age 7. For that, he shook his head. There are gaps. Things I can't remember clearly." "What are you saying?" Olivia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm saying I need to find out who Eleanor is and why seeing her face felt like coming home." 3 days after the incident, Damien sat in his corner office at Foster Enterprises, watching the media storm rage. Outside his window, the board had called an emergency meeting that morning, an uncomfortable hour of thinly veiled concerns about his mental stability and the company's plummeting stock price. "You're saying you had a psychotic break." Gerald Barnes, his CFO, and oldest friend, reported bluntly, dropping a stack of tabloids on Damien's desk. "Or that you're staging some elaborate publicity stunt for the new charitable foundation launch." Damien ran his fingers through his dark hair. "I've had Thomas arrange a private meeting with Eleanor this afternoon. She's staying at the Bellevue Hotel for now." Gerald leaned forward. "Damien, tread carefully. Your father's legacy, everything you've built, tits at risk. Olivia called me this morning. She's worried sick. And my fiancé reports to my CFO now?" Damien snapped, immediately regretting his tone. "I'm sorry. It's just, I understand." Gerald stood. "But remember who supported you when nobody else would. Livia's family could have abandoned ship when the news broke. Instead, Richard Bennett personally called to assure me the merger with Bennett Industries is still proceeding as planned." After Gerald left, Damien received another unwelcome visitor. Patricia Winters, his stepmother, swept into his office unannounced. Her Chanel suit, as impeccable as her timing, was inconvenient. "Damien, darling, what scandal have you created now?" Her voice dripped with false concern. "Your father would be mortified." "What do you want, Patricia? To remind you of reality." "Your mother was Victoria Foster, my dear friend who tragically died of cancer when you were 7. Not some vagrant you've plucked from the street for attention." Damien's jaw tightened. "Is that what happened? Because I have these memories? Fragments of someone else before Victoria?" Patricia's perfectly composed face flickered with something unreadable. "Trauma does strange things to children's minds," your therapist explained. "This years ago, across town, Olivia sat across from Eleanor in a private room at the Bellevue. Against Damien's wishes, she had arranged this meeting herself. "Why now?" Olivia asked, studying the older woman's face for signs of deception. "After all these years, why appear in his life now?" Eleanor's hands trembled around her teacup. "I never stopped looking for him. When I saw his picture in a magazine last year, I knew it was my Damien. Those eyes there, the same." She pulled a worn photograph from her pocket. "This is all I have left." The photo showed a much younger Eleanor holding a toddler with familiar amber-flecked eyes. "If you're his mother, why didn't you raise him?" Olivia pressed. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "Some stories are too painful to tell more than once. I'll wait for Damien." That evening, when Damien finally arrived at the hotel, Olivia met him in the lobby. "She has a photo, Damien," she said quietly. "And she knows things like the small birthmark behind your ear, things only family would know." Oh, Damien felt the ground shifting beneath him. "My father never spoke about my early childhood. He married Patricia when I was 7, and we never looked back." "Maybe it's time to look back," Olivia suggested, squeezing his hand. "I'll be right beside you." "The board wants you to take a leave of absence," Thomas informed Damien as they drove toward Westfield Hospital. 2 weeks had passed since Eleanor entered Damien's life, and the consequences continued to ripple outward. They're suggesting exhaustion as the official reason. Damien barely registered the words. His focus was on the hospital ahead, where Dr. Josephine Patel would perform the DNA test Olivia had discreetly arranged. Eleanor had agreed immediately, her eyes shining with certainty. "Mr. Foster, we should discuss damage control strategies," Thomas persisted. "Not now," Damien replied, watching raindrops race down the window. The past fortnight had brought fragments of memory rushing back, a small apartment with yellow curtains, bedtime stories about brave knights, a woman's soothing voice singing him to sleep when nightmares came. Meanwhile, Olivia had been conducting her own investigation. In the hospital waiting room, she shared her findings. "I found records of a woman named Eleanor Wright, who worked as a nurse at Mercy Children's Hospital around the time you would have been a toddler," she explained, showing him printouts. "She disappeared from employment records suddenly in 1997. Year my father told me my mother died," Damien murmured. "There's more. I visited your father's old attorney, Mr. Geller. He remembered something strange. Your father filed for sole custody of you that same year, claiming abandonment." Damien's head snapped up. "Abandonment? That doesn't make sense if my mother died." "Exactly. And there was no death certificate for a Victoria Foster from that period. Your stepmother Victoria didn't enter the picture until your father married her months later." Dr. Patel approached before they could discuss further. "We've collected both samples. Results typically take several days, but I've expedited the process. We should know by tomorrow afternoon." Later that evening, Damien visited Eleanor in her hotel room. She sat by the window, gazing at the city lights. "I remember a yellow kitchen," Damien said softly, "and a stuffed elephant named Trunks." Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "You wouldn't sleep without him." "I searched everywhere." When she stopped abruptly. What, Eleanor?" "When they took you?" Her voice was barely audible. "Your father came with police officers. There were custody papers. Said I was unfit, that I couldn't provide for you properly on a nurse's salary." "But why would he do that? Were we related?" "To him," Eleanor shook her head slowly. "No, Damien. Robert Foster wasn't your biological father. Damien felt the room spin. And how did I become a foster? You were in the hospital, pneumonia. You were so small, so sick. Robert was there with his son, who had broken his arm. He saw me struggling to pay the medical bills. He offered help at first. Then he wanted more involvement. He was wealthy, powerful, recently widowed with a son just a few years older than you. He said he could give you opportunities I never could. And you just gave me up? Anger flashed through Damien's confusion. No. He took you through the courts, claimed I was neglectful because I worked double shifts to pay our bills. His lawyers buried me in paperwork and threats. When I fought back, they discovered I wasn't. She stopped again, tears flowing freely now. Wasn't what? Damien pressed. Wasn't your biological mother either, Eleanor whispered. But you were my son in every way that mattered. The sleek conference room at Westfield Hospital felt sterile and cold as Damien, Olivia, and Eleanor sat, waiting for Dr. Patel. Patricia had demanded to attend, but Damien refused. This moment belonged to the truth, not to appearances. Whatever happens, Olivia said softly, squeezing Damien's hand, we'll face it together. Eleanor sat quietly across from them, her weathered hands folded in her lap. The elegant clothes Olivia had bought her hung loosely on her thin frame, but she carried herself with newfound dignity. Dr. Patel entered with a manila folder. Thank you all for coming. Have the results of the DNA comparison test? She glanced between Damien and Eleanor. The analysis shows that you are not biologically mother and son. There is no genetic relationship between you. Damien felt a confusing mixture of emotions, disappointment, relief, and lingering confusion. I don't understand, he said, turning to Eleanor. The memories I have, they're real. I know they are. Perhaps Ms. Wright can explain, Dr. Patel suggested gently. Eleanor took a deep breath. I was a nurse at Mercy Children's Hospital in the neonatal intensive care unit. One night, a young woman came in, barely more than a girl herself. Labor. She delivered a beautiful baby boy, but was in no condition to care for him. Drug addiction, homelessness. She looked directly at Damien. That boy was you. My biological mother abandoned me. Damien asked, his voice hollow. She left the hospital without giving her real name. I was assigned to your care. In every day I fell more in love with this tiny fighter who smiled despite everything. When it became clear no one was coming back for you, I did something I'd never done before. Offered to foster you with the intention to adopt. Olivia leaned forward. So you were his foster mother? Eleanor nodded. For nearly 4 years, the adoption was almost complete when Robert Forster entered our lives. He saw something in Damien. Perhaps a companion for his own son. Perhaps a second chance after losing his wife. He used his influence to have my adoption petition denied and pushed through his own. But that's illegal, Olivia protested. Not when you have judges and social workers in your pocket, Eleanor said bitterly. He claimed I was unstable, working too many hours, living in an unsuitable neighborhood. One day they simply came and took Damien away. I fought for years. But Robert Foster ensured I could never get near you again. I lost my job, my apartment, everything. Damien struggled to process this revelation. If you weren't my biological mother, or even my legal guardian anymore, why keep searching for it? Me? All these years? Eleanor's eyes filled with tears, 'cause for 4 years, you were my son. I sang you to sleep every night. I kissed every scrape and bruise. I taught you to tie your shoes and count to 20. Biology doesn't make a mother, Damien. Love does. Actor. Patel discreetly excused herself, leaving the three of them alone with this new truth. The cinnamon smell, Damien said suddenly. You baked cinnamon rolls every Sunday. Eleanor smiled through her tears, remembered. In the yellow kitchen, the stuffed elephant, the night stories. Each memory felt clearer now, unburdened by confusion. You were the one who called me her brave knight? Always, Eleanor whispered. Olivia, who had been quiet, suddenly stood. We need to make this right, Damien. Your father, Roberti, stole something precious from both of you. Those years can never be recovered, but the future is still unwritten. 6 months later, Damien stood at the podium, of the newly inaugurated Eleanor Wright Foundation for Foster Children. The elegant building gleamed in the spring sunshine, its walls adorned with photographs of children who had found permanent homes. Through the foundation's work, family isn't defined by DNA. Damien addressed the gathered crowd, which included journalists, business leaders, and dozens of foster families. It's defined by love, by sacrifice, by the people who choose us and whom we choose in return. In the front row, Eleanor sat beside Olivia, both women radiant with pride. Eleanor's transformation was remarkable, healthy, well-dressed, her silver hair elegantly styled. She volunteered at the foundation daily, her experience as both a nurse and foster mother proving invaluable. When I reconnected with Eleanor Wright, 6 months ago, I discovered that the woman I called mother had saved me twice, Damien continued. First, by taking in an abandoned newborn and giving him a home filled with love. And second, by finding me again decades later. It's helping me understand that my worth isn't measured by the foster name or fortune, but by the capacity to love and be loved in return. The investigation into Robert Foster's illegal machinations had uncovered uncomfortable truths. Multiple children had been essentially purchased through his network of corrupt officials. Though Robert had died years earlier, Patricia faced serious legal consequences for her role in maintaining the deception. After the ceremony, Damien, Olivia, and Eleanor retreated to the small garden behind the foundation building. The board voted unanimously to reinstate you as CEO, Olivia reported, slipping her hand into Damien's. Their wedding was scheduled for the following month, small, intimate ceremony rather than the society extravaganza originally planned. Foster Enterprises is doing fine under Gerald's leadership, Damien replied. This foundation needs me more right now. Eleanor watched a butterfly land on a nearby flower. Your biological mother contacted the foundation yesterday, she said. Quietly, Damien tensed. After the DNA results became public, journalists had somehow tracked down Marissa Jenkins, the young woman who had given birth to him. Her life had been a difficult one, marked by addiction and poverty. What did she want? He asked. To apologize, and to thank me for giving you what she couldn't. Eleanor turned to him. She's in recovery now, has been for 2 years. Damien considered this information. Do you think I should meet her? Only if you want to, Eleanor replied. Family comes in many forms, Damien. Sometimes it's the people who raise us, sometimes it's the people whose DNA we share, and sometimes it's the people we choose along the way. She glanced meaningfully at Olivia. I've been thinking about something, Olivia said, her expression serious. After we're married, I'd like us to consider becoming foster parents ourselves, perhaps even adopt eventually. Damien felt his heart expand with love for this woman who had stood beside him through scandal and revelation, would help him discover his true heritage without judgment. I think that's the best idea I've ever heard, he said, drawing both women into an embrace. After all, the most valuable legacy we can create isn't measured in dollars or company shares. It's measured in love passed forward. As they stood together in the garden, Damien understood that his life had come full circle. The abandoned child had become a man with not one but many mothers, the woman who gave him life, the woman who saved him, and the memory of Victoria who had shown him kindness. In her brief time as his stepmother, and now with Olivia, he had the chance to create a new kind of family, one built on truth, choice, and love. Thank you, he whispered to Eleanor, for never giving up on me. A mother's love doesn't recognize time or distance, she replied simply. It just is. And in that moment, Damien, foster billionaire, philanthropist, lost son found again, knew that he had discovered the truest wealth of all.